Aaron Gabra. It is Methodist O'Dave here, professional theologian, Bible teacher, and today I'm Irish. Patrick's name was not Patrick. It was Maewyn Succat, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong because it's believed it's a Welsh name. And Patrick was not born in Ireland. He was born in Great Britain. So he was actually English. Well, not really English. His parents were Romans, descendants of Romans. And his father was a deacon in the Catholic Church, the Roman Church. And when he was 16 years old, he was kidnapped by Irish pirates, carried back to Ireland, and sold into slavery. And he was a slave for a Druid priest, and he tended the sheep in the fields of his master. And Patrick would spend all day in the field and all night, and being alone and no one to talk to and far away from home, Patrick would spend all his time in prayer. And that drew him really close to God in that time of isolation. When 6 years went past, Patrick decided that he wanted to escape, so he fled east, came to the coast, and when he got to the coast, there was a boat on the shore. There was a ship off the coast. There was some sailors had come ashore for some supplies, and he asked for a ride back to Great Britain, and they gave him a ride back to Great Britain. He was reunited with his family. Patrick entered the priesthood, became a priest, and in his 30s had these dreams of Irish children begging him to come over. They needed him. So Patrick took that as a sign from God that he should go back to Ireland and preach the gospel, and he did. Patrick was not the only missionary to go to Ireland and preach the gospel, but he was one of the most successful. And because of him, there was a strong Irish Catholic Church that was different than the Roman Catholic Church. It was much more evangelical. It would have been almost Protestant, maybe Anglican-like. And it was a little different than the Roman Catholic Church, but it was very evangelistically oriented. And the Irish sent missionaries back to England, to Great Britain, to northern France, to Scandinavia. And it is alleged, it's a story, it's a tradition, it's a fable, if you will, but that Irish missionaries made their way to the Americas and preached in America and as far down into South and maybe even Central America. So we're going to take the hat off right now because it's a very silly hat. You know, it's cartoon Irish. It's not real Irish wear. I have a real Irish hat that, so I look like Tommy Shelby. Well, we are at chapter 17, verse 5. The one who mocks the poor has insulted his creator. Whoever rejoices over disaster will not go unpunished. In the past, people have humiliated the poor. Poor people were forced, the only option they had for thousands of years was to beg in the streets, to sit there and hope that someone would give you something. Scrap of food, maybe a small coin, anything. And sometimes people would make the poor dance, sing, do things to earn that money, not to earn the money, but to humiliate the poor. And here the author is writing that God is insulted when we do that. The belief for a lot of people is that the poor are poor because it's their own fault. And I will say that there are some people who are poor because it's their fault. They're lazy. They're not intelligent. They make bad choices. They make bad decisions, and they get themselves into a predicament. But I think the greater number of poor are people who are born into poverty, that they don't have the opportunities that other people do. They get sick and are unable to work, so they can't work and earn a living. Perhaps there's no work in their area. Factories have shut down, industry has moved on. There's just too many people for the number of jobs that are available. There are people who are poor that they can go to work, but the only work that they can find because of their skill level or because of the opportunities is low paying jobs. And a lot of times they can't afford to live in proper housing and they become homeless. So a lot of people struggle not because they're lazy, but because circumstances make it difficult for them to do that. So Jesus warns people, when you help the poor, when you give them food, when you give them water, when you meet their needs, you're doing it to me. And when you don't, you're ignoring me. So he issues a strong warning. That's Matthew chapter 25. Read it sometime. When done it to the least of these, my brethren, you've done it to me. So don't make fun of people who are homeless or poor. You don't know how they got there. It might not be their fault, probably isn't their fault. So do what you can to help alleviate their suffering and give them an opportunity if you can. If you've got a question about this or any other subject, drop me an email, methodistdave@gmail.com. Please don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe. And until tomorrow, be good to one another, and Aaron Gabra.